The next page we're going to build is the class detail page, which is a dynamic page. It's basically what happens when people click learn more on a specific class. And so we have dynamic content. And the most interesting thing that we'll have here is that we have a book now button here, which we want to open up kind of like a pop-up, a module that's going to sync up with the client's, way of managing their bookings in this case. And we're going to use third-party tools like Zapier and Google Spreadsheets to do that. So that's the new thing. But let's start off with just fixing up the layout and the dynamic content here so everything looks good, and then we'll move into the pop-up. So let's get started. I am inside the classes template page, which is a dynamic page. So we're going to see the content for hot yoga in this case. And let's get started with bringing in the dynamic content for the hero section. So first of all, the image, I'm going to double click and get the image from classes. In this case, it's going to be the image. That looks great. Now for the project name, which is actually going to be class name, hot yoga. This is going to be the intro for the class. So we're going to pull in from class intro. Okay. This is a little bit more complicated. This is the tag, so we'll do this in a second. The first one here is actually where, New York. So this is actually, let's put where. This is not dynamic. It's always going to be where, but this is going to be the location, where. Okay, Sydney. What else do we have? Instructor. Okay, so instructor. And here we already know we're going to have to do this first name, last name, because instructor is only going to bring me the first name. So let's go ahead and copy and paste that. Here we're going to pick the last name, and we've done that a few times before where we know we need to wrap them both in a flex. So let's wrap them in a div block. And by the way, if I haven't shown you this before, I can also wrap them automatically in a horizontal flex. But because we already have a wrapper that we gave a style to with the correct gap between them, and I think it was instructor full name. Yeah, that's how we called it. It already has the correct spacing between them, so that's the easy way for me to do it. Okay, here we have date March 2023. So that's date, that's correct. Let's see that it's pulling in the date in the right format. So let's show the settings. Oh, sorry, not where. This is actually date. And the date, in this case, we only want the month and the year. So let's see if we have this format. September 2023. That's correct. And then the last one is time. Okay. So we're also going to pull in the same. And by the way, this is a link. We don't need a link. So let me just actually delete this and copy and paste this. Anyway, we need the time. Just we need the time in a different format. So let's just pull in the time right now. Time is exactly this, just the hour. In this case, 11 p.m. Doesn't make sense, but oh well. Okay, so we've got these. Now let's see. Now here we need to bring in the list of tags that we have. So basically, we need to bring in, because now we need to bring in a dynamic list, we actually want to pull in a collection list. So let's see how this is structured. Now here we have portfolio header tag list, and inside we have these links. Now I know, and those are, where are they nested in? They're inside of this portfolio header content left 6. So I'm going to bring in a collection list inside, and I'm not going to do it inside of the portfolio header tag list, because we know already that when we're bringing in a collection list, it already has a wrapper. So we're just going to maybe reuse these. Maybe we'll reuse these classes, but maybe not. So let's pick the wrapper, portfolio header content left. Let's hit Command E and write collection list, bring in a collection list. And in this case, I want to bring in the classes tags. Now, note what happened. Actually, I've made a mistake, because when I picked classes tags, it brought all the list of all the tags, and that's not what I want. I want to bring in only the tags that are relevant to hot yoga. So let me choose the source again. And actually you can see here that under classes field, we do have class multi-reference, and that's actually only bringing the tags that are associated with hot yoga. So the actual list that I needed was the list from the hot yoga collection item, not the whole collection of the tags. Okay, so that looks good. Now we just need to design them. And actually we don't need to design them exactly like this, because in my design they look different. It's just basically bold text. So maybe that's not even that useful for me. Maybe this class, what is it? No, this might be useful because this wrapper of the tags is arranging them in a flex horizontally with a little bit of a gap between them. So let me copy this class and give this to the collection list wrapper. So for this, let me paste this tag, and now you can see that they have been arranged this way. Let me copy the text block and put it inside of the class item, but bring in the class tag. Let's see. Whoops. No. What did I do? No, that's not what I want. I want for this text block to bring in the tag name. Okay, that's great. But why is this text looks different than this one? Because I guess it's getting its properties for the text, semi-bold and that kind of stuff from its wrapper, the tag item. Well, I'm not going to do that because we don't want the background here. So at this point, I think I can get rid of this static text here, and I'm just going to style this myself. So let's call this class tag and just make sure that it's a little bit smaller, something like this, and it's probably a little bit semi-bold or something like this. Let me see if it looks like the design. Yeah, looks pretty much like the design. One more thing that I'm noting is that this whole bottom part needs to be with the color, the kind of like what we call the gray color. So let's see where this whole bottom part is. We've got the image wrapper. Let's see how the component is built. We've got this component, then we've got this padding global for the bottom part, I guess, and then we have a container. Okay, so let's give this a class of background color, not accent, gray maybe. Okay, this looks pretty good. This is not bad. Let me also see how is this arranged. So we can see that inside of this bottom part, which is padding global container, makes it contain not all the width. And then we have this padding section medium. That basically controls, we can see the padding from the top and bottom. And actually, I'm looking at this design. I think we have too much space and the image is too small here. So let's try to see if they have, instead of padding section medium, maybe they have padding section small. Let me delete this and write padding section. Okay, so they have large, medium, small. And now you can see we have less. Instead of 5 REM, it's being changed to 3. And that looks better. Now we have more of the image, and that looks pretty good. Now the only thing left to do is bring in this wavy thing that we have here, the gray wave. Actually, do we have gray wave? Here we had a light wave. Here we have a dark wave. So we've never had, I think, a gray wave before. So we're going to need to import this image. Now, how are we going to put it? We'll probably want to put it here on this image wrapper. Now, previously, we've set it as, as a background that's going on top as a layer. But in this case, we already have the background. Actually, we don't have a background. We have this image, and we want to put it on top of this image. So we can't use the trick that we did with the background image. So we'll just have to put it on top of it, which means we're going to have to use position absolute again. So let's get started by uploading this gray wave. Here we have gray wave. That's this one. And let's just drag it in here. Okay. So we have it. Where is it? For some reason, I can't see it. Okay. Maybe it's because of how this, because this image, you can see, is also being used in position absolute. Okay, so let's just make sure that this image, which we'll call gray wave, will also make it position absolute. But now I think we can see it at the top. Let's position it at the bottom. There we go. We just have it right here. And does it look okay? No, it's not taking up the whole space. We have to make sure that the width is 100%. Let me preview that. Now it works just fine. Okay. Now I thought maybe because both of these images are position absolute, maybe we would need to set the gray wave Z index as higher than this one just to define it on top, but it just happened to work out of the box, so we don't have to do anything. So both of these images are position absolute. I think maybe it's because it's afterwards. Yeah, just because it's coming afterwards, it's being positioned on top of it, so we don't have to set the Z index. Okay, with that, we've got the hero section done. Let's see what we have in the next section. It's basically dynamic content. We have the rich text here, title, and an image. Let's head back to do that. Let's connect this with, again, the name of the class. Here we have just separate paragraphs, and that's not what we need. Oh, it's actually a rich text. So these are paragraphs nested inside of a rich text. So I can pull in the rich text from the description. That's great. And for the image, let's pull in the image. Now here, we've already dealt with this previously, right? When we had the image not in the right kind of like cropping or aspect ratio, and we need the round corners. So actually might be a good chance to reuse the class that we've created in the previous page. So let's go head back into classes and see if we can reuse what we have done here. So let's see how we've made it. The image itself is class layout image, layout 12 image, and the wrapper is layout 12 image wrapper. Let me try to reuse both of these and see if that's going to solve our problem. So classes template. For the image itself, instead of content image 2, let me replace this with layout 12 image. That's great. And the wrapper, instead of content 2 image wrapper, let's bring that to layout 12 image wrapper. Here we go. But bam, now we've got it filling it, or maybe more correctly cover, with round corners with the overflow hidden so that we can see the right round corners, and that's fantastic. What do we have in the next section? The next section is, it just actually says your instructor. Your instructor. And I think we need to, again, pull in, but this time we're not pulling in the image of the class. You can see that because we have instructor dynamically knowing who the instructor is, because again, it's cross-referencing the other collection from the instructors, we can pull in the profile image of the instructor themselves. And we're going to do the same thing that we just did with the round corner. So let's change that to layout image, layout image 12, layout 12 image, and the wrapper to layout 12 image wrapper. That's great. Now here, it basically says, transform your well-being with Rona, experienced yoga instructor. I wonder if maybe we just need to bring in, instead of this rich text, maybe let's add just like a paragraph, and we'll bring in the bio of the instructor. Maybe that was actually a rich text. So let me undo that, and let's see if that was the rich text. And if we have a rich text, maybe we can pull in, instructor description. Okay, so that's great. And after that, we've got some bullet points. Now we haven't used list before, so that's a good idea to bring in a list. You can bring it in from here, from our text elements. I'm not seeing it here. So actually, let me just hit Command E and write list. And then you can see that we have a list. Now, the way list works, you can see it right here. There's basically a wrapper for the list and then list items. In this case, I'm just going to copy and paste this text here. Command to select it, copy that, and bring it inside of the list. That's basically just like a normal list. Of course, we can style that, but looks like the styling is actually not very different from what we want. Maybe a little bit more spacing between the bullet points. So let's see how the list itself is arranged. It doesn't have a class to it. Let's see if they probably have a list. Let me go back and let's go to our style guide. I don't want to just create a new class if the style guide, and I'm pretty sure that, you know, with client first, they do have unordered lists. Oh, so I can just actually edit the unordered list, the general class for unordered list. So that's a good idea. So all the bullet points will have this new spacing. So I'm just going to select unordered list. And now let's see how we're going to change the spacing between them. Line height, let's change that to maybe 3. Okay, that's too much. 2. Yeah, I think that's okay. That's better. Okay, so that's what we want. And now we're ready to tackle the interesting part, which is how we're going to set up the pop-up. Okay, so the first thing is I note that we actually don't have the content here for the pop-up. So let me just paste the content here. Not sure why this has extra classes to it, so I'm just going to remove it just to use the normal class. Forgot to copy and paste this. And we don't need these 2 buttons, and this actually needs to be button 1, the normal button. Okay, with book now. Book now. Actually, we're about to replace this button, so this is not critical. Okay, how do you create a pop-up? Well, fortunately for us, this pop-up or model, as it's called, is actually also a Reloom component. If I'm going to click this, you can see that the name of this module is Contact Model 1. So let's bring in this component from Reloom and then figure out how this works. So if you, in the future, if you want to build your own pop-ups, you understand how this works. So let's close this here and let's open up the Reloom library from here and let's do Contact Model 1. That's exactly what we want. I'm going to copy that and let's see what, when we're pasting it, maybe inside the body or inside the page wrapper. Let me paste that. Okay, let's see what was pasted here. So we've got a section with a button that basically says Open Model, and you can see when I'm clicking on this button that we have this green button, green icon here, which basically indicates that there's an interaction already associated with this. So if we're going to preview this and we're going to click this, you can see that now we have this model already opening up for us. It's scrollable and we can click outside. That's closing it. It doesn't look, there's some problems. For example, I can see that the navigation is on top of the model, which is not what we want. So we're going to solve all of these things, but let's figure out how does this actually work. So they've brought in a section with a bunch of, padding and stuff like that. And inside we have the button group with this button. And also we have here the contact model component. And you can see with this icon that this is currently hidden. Now let's see how we can actually unhide this thing. Over here in the display panel, you can see that we have this hide icon here. Now we haven't talked about this. We've talked about, block and flex a lot. We haven't got too deep into grid yet, but we also have this hide functionality. Now hide is very important because one we've seen when animating previously, that the overlay, that we can just reduce opacity of stuff. But if we were to create a pop-up on top of the whole screen and just make the opacity 0, it would still be on top of everything else. So if we want to click underneath it on other buttons, it would actually block them because there's actually a layer on top of everything. So when we're setting things as hide, it actually removes them so that they're actually not on the screen, and then we can click on what's behind. And that's why it's very efficient when you want things to not being clickable and not be actually rendered on the screen itself. So right now, let's bring it back to probably flex, And now we can see the actual pop-up module here. And let's understand how it's built. So there is this content wrapper. This is basically the pop-up itself. And then there's the close button. Right now we can't even see it because it's somehow behind the navigation bar. And then there's the overlay. That's actually the background. Okay, so now that we understand this, the first thing I want to fix in this thing is I want to make it on top of everything else. And I want to understand why it's not on top of everything else. Let's see how this is structured. So the content model component is fixed position, pretty similar to how we set up the navigation, just to be fixed on the screen. And it has a Z index of 99. So what we want to make sure is we want to make sure that the nav bar is actually lower on the Z index than 99. Let's head out for a second. Let's double click on this. And let's see if we've actually set this up. Not sure why we're not even seeing the navbar component. This one is fixed, but we didn't define specifically a Z index. So let's set it as 10 for now. Okay, now you can see, if I'm going out, now the navbar is behind and we can actually see the close button here, the close interaction. So they've already went ahead and set up the open and close interactions for us, which is great. If we want, we can go ahead into the interactions panel, and maybe you can see that when we're tapping on the button, it has an animation to open it. You saw that it's animating up. If we want to edit this, we can perhaps do it later on. But for now, let's keep it. And let's edit this module for a second. Let's see what the module actually looks like. Definitely the background is brown and much darker. So let's pick up the background overlay that we have here. Let's see the background. So currently the background, I guess, is black. Let's pick it as a brown, and let's remove the opacity somewhere around here. So now the background looks better. What else do we have here? We have request to book. Let's copy the content. We have round corners for this whole element. So for the content wrapper, let's do 25 for the round corners. That's great. What else do we have? It's actually, I think that this is not as wide as this. I don't know if I want to change this, but let's see. Right now, it has a maximum width of 48. Let's maybe change that to 35. Yeah, I think maybe 38. No, not 38 REM. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, please submit your details. Okay, that's great. And then we have name, email, and then special requests. So instead of this, special requests. All right, so that is great. I accept the terms. Do we need this? I don't know if we need this. Let me delete this. We don't need this thing. Button, submit, but we want this to look like our own button. So let's remove button 2 and let's set this up as button, submit. Okay, this looks good. It has the scroll bar, but that's just because our screen is not high enough at this point. And maybe, you know what? Maybe we can remove the amount of padding that we have here a little bit. And then maybe this would fit in, I guess. It also has a maximum height, I can see at the pop-up of 80. But I think that is a good idea. Maybe we don't want this to take up the whole screen. Let's see what happens if I change this to 90. Actually, you know what? This looks better. So I change the max height to 90. Okay, the pop-up actually looks good. We'll be back later to make sure that the form actually does what we want. Let's go ahead and hide back the module. So we have the module component. Let's hide it. I'm going to set the display to hide, and let's see if it's actually working. So again, this is the button that currently opens up the module. Opens. Yep, this looks good, just like we want. Hit the close. It's closing. Fantastic. Okay, now we don't actually need all of this section, right, that they've brought in. We just want this button group that includes the button and the module itself. Let's take this and bring it around here maybe instead of this button group. So where is this? this button group. Yeah, we need to replace this button group with this button group. So now we have this. Let's delete the previous one. Let's change this to book now. And let's change the class from button to just button. Okay. So now we've got this, and I think we also have, yeah, I forgot to delete this section. I was about to say that there's too much space there. Okay, this looks good. Okay, so we've got this. It's also animating nicely. Book now opens up the module. Okay, so this works. Now let's figure out how we're connecting this form. Wait, why is this aligning to the center? Should be aligning to the left, the pop-up. Let's open up the pop-up here again. Let's make it visible by turning the display to flex again. Why are these aligned to the left? Form filled. Yeah, the form filled wrapper is aligning to the left. Let's go ahead. Do we have another contact form that we've set up as center? No, we didn't have any other forms on this website. Okay, so let's just align it to the left. That's exactly what we need. Okay, let's go back to the content model component, hide it, and okay, let's talk about what we need to do to connect the form. Now, in the previous module, we saw how the native Webflow forms just basically sends an email to an email you want. But in this case, it's not going to be enough. A lot of clients actually want to integrate with their own system. So if you have a restaurant, if you have a hotel, if you have, they have their own booking system, they have their own CRMs maybe to manage clients and inquiries and stuff like that, and you want to integrate together with them. So how do you do that? Well, originally, Webflow wanted to manage this from Webflow itself, and they've created this logic panel right here for you to create all kinds of logic, what happens when you submit a form. This is not really advanced yet, and Webflow actually decided not to develop this further, so we're not going to dive into logic because honestly, it's not very useful. The most powerful way to integrate with other tools is by using a third-party tool, and the top two options are either Zapier or Make, and you can actually see them here from the apps panel. There's Zapier integration and Make. They're basically very similar. We're going to cover Zapier right now because it's a little bit easier and more user-friendly, while Make is a little bit more robust, but it has a little bit more of a learning curve. With both of them, you have a free plan, and we're going to use the free plan just to do something very, very simple. In this case, what we want to do is to send the information from the pop-up module into a Google spreadsheet that basically has the name, the email, the class, special replace, and the client can basically manage here in another column whether they replied to them or no. Let's say that this is how the client wants to manage inquiries. Of course, this can be either Airtable for clients or Notion, or again, a proprietary system or some kind of an other system. Let's see how we're going to do this. So the first thing that we want to do is to make sure that the form actually sends all of these information. So we have name, email, class, and special request. Now, when we went back into, let's open up the form again, module component. Let's make sure that it's visible by turning on the flex. Let's see what we have here. First of all, let's give this form a name, which is what we always want to do. Currently, it's called contact form. Let's call this booking form. Booking form. Okay. By the way, we can also, and we should, by the way, design the success and error messages. I'm not going to do that right now, but we can do that. So we gave the form a name, booking form, very important because we will be searching for this form when we're doing the integration. Let's give name to these forms. So this is name. This is actually correct. Now let's just call it name for simplicity. Email, we're going to call it email. Special requests, not message. Let's call this special requests. Now we have one thing that is actually missing, which is what class do they want to book? Now, we can maybe put up a kind of like a drop down for them to select which class they want to book, but it doesn't make sense for them to do it. It's not a good user experience. We know that they are on the hot yoga page right now, and we know that they clicked book because they want to book for hot yoga. So how can we automatically pass out what class we want through this form into the integration? Well, there's a way to do that, and it's by using a hidden field. So it's adding another field here into the form, but it's going to be filled automatically. The user is not even going to see this. How do we do this? Well, honestly, I don't remember by heart the code to do it. So what I usually do is open up Google and I write Webflow add hidden field with CMS data. Okay, so let me Google that. Let's click on the first Google result that I get. And basically, it's telling me that I can add an embed element into the form. And then I basically need to add this line, which let's basically try to read, even if we're not coders. Let's try to understand what it says. It's an input, which is basically a field. Type hidden, okay. And then class and ID, it's basically the name, right? Form item, field hidden, attribute, probably the name of it, and then value, like what is the value of this field? What is the content? Let's copy that, and I'll show you how we're going to do this. So basically here under the form, you can see I have inputs. Let's just add one more thing here by hitting Command E and do embed code. Now we have this code, and I'm going to paste this one here. So let's see what we need to change. Input type hidden, class. We don't really need a class for this, but ID, I want to call this class. Maybe booking class. So we know which one is this. Also for name, let's call this booking class. And what is the value? So the value, I can actually delete this, and instead of this, you can see that I have here the purple, which stands for dynamic CMS data. And now I can pick just data from the CMS. In this case, we have all of the normal CMS fields. We just need the name because we want the name of the class. So that's it. Okay, let me save this. And this is now inside of the form above the button. It's hidden. Nobody's going to see this. Let's test this out to see if this actually works. So let's go ahead and hide the form. Component, style, hide. Let's publish our website. Publish. Haven't published it yet. Publish. All right. This works. Let's open up the website. We're on this page. Okay. We're going to go down and click Book Now. And let's test this out. I'm going to call this run test. My email, blah, at gmail. Please let me know if I can come tomorrow. Submit. Okay, request to book. Thank you. Your submission has been received. Fantastic. Let's head into our website settings, because you will remember from the previous module, we can see here from the forms exactly what was submitted. So let's head into the forms and head down below. And here you can see the booking form. Few seconds ago, name, run test, email, special request. And you can also see that we have another field here, although we didn't have the actual field, that is called booking class, and it's hot yoga. So now we have all of the data passing from the form correctly. Right now it is sending it probably to my email, but we actually want to send this over with Zapier. So let's see how we're going to do that. Let me go back into my site, although at the moment, you know what, I don't really need my website. I need to head back to Zapier. You can go ahead and you can open up a new account, a new free account, and then it's going to ask you basically what app do you want to connect. So I'm going to say Webflow. It's going to load up and it's going to give me Webflow. And what do you want to connect it with? In this case, I'm going to do Google Sheets. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so what happens when this happens? When a form is being submitted, you can also have stuff for the e-commerce, then what do we want to do? What we want to do, API request, copy worksheet, create spreadsheet. We want to create a spreadsheet row. We just want this to be added here as a new row. Let's do this. Let's do create a row. Fantastic. Let's give this a try. Let's try this. Now, if this is your first time doing it, it's going to ask you to connect to your Webflow account. So I'm going to do this and also connect to my Google account just to see that we have permissions. So let's do this. I'm going to select my whole workspace. Of course, you can also select just a single site. Okay, I can continue. I have an account. Now it's asking me what site is this form being submitted for, and I have to choose. This is called Webflow Masterclass 4 well, I have so many of them. So it's, I think, a course build 2.3 course build. That's what I'm using. What is the form name? So let's see. It's called booking form. Okay. Fantastic. I can continue. Okay. Can I test it? Let's test the trigger. And it's going to look for data that was already submitted. And you can see here actually the data from the previous time that we have submitted this. It was run test. Please let me know if I can come tomorrow. So we have the data. Zapier can now read the data from the correct website, from the correct form. So this is continue. This is fantastic. Now let's connect my Google account. Okay, let's continue with this account. Let's choose what drive. So that's my Google Drive. What spreadsheet? So that's going to be Webflow Masterclass 4 for me. Level 2 booking. That's what I called this spreadsheet. And what worksheet? Only has one worksheet. Worksheet is basically this. You can have multiple tabs here. So that's just the first one. Okay, so now basically we can see the columns that we have: name, email, class, special request, reply. These are all the columns that we have in this spreadsheet. So now all we have to do is to pick the data. So you can see to the name column what data we want to bring in from the Webflow form. In this case, I want to bring in the name. Thank you. And for the email, what do we want to bring in? We want to bring in the email. For the class, what do we want to bring in? We want to bring in this one, booking class, hot yoga. That's what we want. And for special requests, it was special request. Thank you. And for reply, this one we're not bringing in. This is for the clients to fill in on their own thing, on their own spreadsheet. So I'm just going to continue. And now I can do test step. Let's test this step. Now it's sending the spreadsheet row into Google. And it's basically telling me that it was, looks like it was done. So I can go here into the spreadsheet and already, let's just change the colors, but you can see that the data has been entered here. We have run test. Everything is here. So let's publish this just to make sure that it's turned on. And now this Zap is going to automatically, every time that we're submitting a form, it's going to take this action. So Zap is published. It's turned on. Let's do another test. Let's go ahead and publish our website or just open up. Let's try a different class, right? Let's go to classes. Let's go to all classes. Previously, we've had hot yoga. Let's do the Kundalini one. Let's go here. We have this dynamic page. Let's do booking class. And this is, again, Ron. And this is blah, gmail.com. Is this working? And let's submit this. Please wait. Thank you. Your submission has been received. Now, this might take a few seconds or perhaps a minute, but let's head over here. Took less than a few seconds. It's already here inside the spreadsheet. Run again. Is this working? With the class dynamically changed to the Kundalini Yoga. That is fantastic. Now, Zapier has millions, not millions, but like thousands of apps, all of the popular apps. So you can create very, very powerful integration this way. And with that, we have finished the dynamic page. I'll see you on the next video.